So it is 8:30 on the East Coast, and we always do our best to start these calls on time. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. We're thrilled to have you and just about over 400 fellow citizen leaders that have RSVP'd for the call. And I know that it's late for those of us on the East Coast, so we're going to try to keep the call to 1 hour as we usually do. As I mentioned, everyone's on mute right now, but when we get to the Q&A, the question and answer portion of the call, go ahead and press 1 on your keypad, and we'll be notified that you have a question or comment, and we'll do our best to call on you. So the goal for tonight's call is really to give everyone a brief background about American Promise and lay out the national strategy for ratifying a 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution to overturn Citizens United and inspire everyone to either start an American Promise Association in their community or gather a group of friends for the next core team call, which is scheduled for Saturday, May 13th at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm going to go into that in just a little bit more detail here in a minute. And I want to clarify real quickly the difference between starting or joining a core team and launching a new American Promise Association in your community. One of the ways that American Promise is a little bit different is our commitment to transpartisan work, finding ways to work with Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and inspiring them to lead on the 28th Amendment. Another way that American Promise is different is really our commitment to supporting action and to building teams to work together. With citizen uprising actions in all 50 states by the end of 2018, we don't have time to build teams and travel to all American Promise Association launches in all 50 states. And again, I'll talk in a little bit more detail about that later. But that's why we've started the Citizen Uprising core teams, where you can just declare yourself a core team member and jump on our core team conference calls the second Saturday of every month at 1 o'clock p.m. Again, the next one's scheduled for May 13th. So we'll encourage you to bring others to the core team calls so you won't be on them alone. And we'll do our best and work hard to make the calls inspiring and action-oriented as they have been. And if you'd like to go a bit deeper, our staff will support you in launching a new American Promise Association in your community. So the APAs are where we work with you to build a team around you, and then we travel to your city to launch an APA, as I recently did just a few weeks back in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which was a fantastic experience. And so we're going to send a form out tomorrow so you can let us know you're interested in starting a new American Promise Association, or APA as we call them, or joining or forming a core team. So before I hand it over to Jeff Clements, founder and president of American Promise, who's going to lay out a lot of this national strategy for us, I'd like to make just a quick comment and share this quote from one of our great presenters at the National Citizen Leadership Conference, which we held last September in Washington, D.C., and the quote comes from Francis Moore Lappé. And what Frankie said was, "Our real problem is not a heating planet or rampant malnutrition. We only have one real problem, our own feelings of powerlessness to manifest the solutions right in front of our noses." Now, we all know she could have easily just as easily have said, our real problem is not a heating planet or rampant malnutrition or reclaiming our democracy from billionaires and corporations. We only have one real problem, our own feelings of powerlessness to manifest the solutions right in front of our noses. The citizen leaders on this call, that means you, everyone, and the work that we can do together coming out of this call, what we call the Civic Courage Campaign, is focused on dissolving that feeling of powerlessness that Francis Moore Lappé is really talking about here, and creating a structure of support that's really powerful enough to get our communities and states ready to ratify a 28th Amendment. So without further ado, I would love to pass the call on over to Jeff Clements, and I'm excited to introduce him to you. Many of you know Jeff. But Jeff is president of American Promise and author of a wonderful book, Corporations Are Not People. He's been working to overturn Citizens United literally since the day the decision was handed down, and has just been a tireless champion for political equality and democracy. So, Jeff, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Really glad to be here with everybody. And it's so good, as always, to hear folks from all over the country, all the states, coming together on this call. And I want to talk briefly about our national strategy, give you some basically outlines of what we're doing, how we're going to win this historic fight. Ben's going to go into some more details about where we stand in particular states, what's coming next, and how you can join in particular states and everywhere to help us all together win this. So let me give you some highlights and overview, because I want to make sure we leave lots of time for your questions, and that will help me to make sure that we're focused on the questions you might have about our strategy and our strategy together in this country to shift power back to we, the people, and stop the domination of big money and special interests in our democracy. So the first thing to appreciate about the strategy is we think of it as we go big and we act now. So what does go big mean? Go big means we are out of easy solutions. There are no shortcuts. There's no magic formula for turning our country around. There's no politician who's going to do it for us. If we just vote for the right person, it'll all be fixed. We have a constitutional crisis. That's a big problem. Citizens United basically took the power away from the people and gave it to the very powerful, wealthy people and big corporations and interests. And there is not about pointing fingers at people, but democracy doesn't work that way. So if we don't turn that around, and the only way to turn it around now is a constitutional amendment, the Supreme Court could fix it, but they won't. That's clear now. So it's up to us. So that's the go big part. We are not going to delude ourselves that there's an easy answer here. We're going for the big historic reform. And every generation of Americans has had to do that before. So it's our turn. So go big is key. We focus on the 28th Amendment. We will win this 28th Amendment. Act now is up to all of us. It is not a magic, formula that we have at American Promise to do it and then sort of tell people how we did it and ask for money. We are going to have to do it together. All Americans are going to have to step up to win this, and we can do it, but we have to act now, and act now in our communities. So everything about our strategy is to help Americans come together to win these fights, to stand up these fights, where they can do it right where you live, in your communities, in your states, and that is how we will win 2/3 of Congress, to get ratification in 3/4 of the states, to win this constitutional amendment and put the people back in charge. So how do you win constitutional amendments? Here's where we get to the key strategy. We have to know how to do it. Well, we do know how to do it. This is Amendment 28. We've done it 27 times. 7 of those overturned Supreme Court decisions. None of them were easy. Some of them were, if people say, oh, how are you going to get 2/3 of Congress? Well, imagine, how were they going to get 2/3 of an unelected, all-male Senate in 1918 to vote for the 19th Amendment by 2/3, which gave women the right to vote for the 17th Amendment, which forced those senators to go face the people in an election. They didn't want to do it. They had to do it because the people did what we're doing. So what is the secret? Well, we need national consensus. Because it's such a big lift, you need a national consensus to do it. There isn't a single political party strategy. There isn't a single election strategy where we win 51-49. We need to win everywhere and have the country agree, yes, this is the direction we're going. National consensus, number one. Number two, we need to turn that consensus into the kind of political power where the politicians, no matter what their party is, no matter what other policy views they have, know that they have to support the 28th Amendment or face grave risk of losing their seat in the next election. So national consensus, turning that consensus into political power. And number three, we have to be everywhere. We have to be in our local communities and counties in every state in the country, because to go through 38 states of ratification, to overcome the money of the plutocracy that will try to stop this, we need to be making our arguments, talking with our neighbors, organizing in our communities, and not have a sort of top-down centralized solution coming from American Promise or any other organization. We need to be everywhere. So national consensus, political power, decentralized, and be everywhere. So how do we do that? That's what this citizen rising, this what American Promise is built for. Number one, We don't do it by dividing ourselves against each other and saying, oh, this organization or that organization or this political party or that political party or, this person or that person. We come together and hold that national consensus together, because that's the good news. We have national consensus. We know that. We know it from polls. We know it from ballot initiatives. We know it from the 800 cities and towns that have already passed resolutions calling for the 28th Amendment, the 18 states. Just yesterday, the Nevada Senate passed a 28th Amendment resolution. And when these get put before the people to vote, as it has, thanks to many people on this call and across the country and many different organizations, the people vote for this 75, 80%. So we have national consensus. We need to show that, and that's how it turns into political power. If we can stand up more resolutions, if we can organize ourselves, whether it's American Promise Associations, core teams, lots of different alternatives to how to do it, but if we can organize ourselves to get many more of these resolutions, to fight for ballot initiatives in our states, to fight for resolutions calling for the 28th Amendment in every state, that becomes something that the politicians can't ignore, and we begin to deploy the national consensus to turn it into votes for the 28th Amendment. Good news is we're doing that too. We have ways to go, but I just came from an event with John Pudner, head of Take Back Our Republic, a conservative Republican from Alabama who supports the 28th Amendment. We're stand together, and we could do it here in Massachusetts or down in Alabama or just about any state in the country. That's something that is going to raise the eyebrows of the political class that benefits and profits from the current system. Americans are coming together, and if we do this Citizens Rising and all our work in all our states that we're working on now and that American Promise is supporting, 2018 and 2020, we're going to start to see some very different reception for the 28th Amendment and other things in Congress, other big reforms in Congress and the states. So that's the strategy that's why we support citizen efforts at the local level. It's why we support, we don't care what political party you're in or what organization you're in or what your views are. If you want to help win this 28th Amendment, we will help you do that in your local community. And then finally, that gets to the decentralized part. It's really up to us. It's up to you. It's up to your friends and neighbors. And the good news is when you talk to them, they're often very glad to hear, oh, great, I'm so glad somebody is helping to do this, and I have something I can help do it too. What do I do next? And getting on the core team calls, it's not about dialing in all by yourself. It's about, bringing some neighbors and friends together. It's great to dial in by yourself too, but if you get friends and neighbors together, dial into the core team calls, talk to Ben and Joyce and get some of our resolutions and things like that. You begin that decentralized, everywhere presence of this 28th Amendment work. And we know it can work. It's been tested again and again. We win these resolutions. We are building support in Congress. We are building support in state legislatures, and we're building massive support in the country. So our strategy is to be focused, to be a home for cross-partisan work, and those go together. If we focus on the 28th Amendment, we can hold that 75, 80% Republicans, Democrats, Independents coming together who want to win reform. So there's the strategy. There's a lot more detail. You'll hear a bit more from Ben about it, but why don't we open it up for any questions about that, if this is the right time for that, Ben?
Yeah, this is perfect time for that, actually. And so, as I said before, folks, if you press 1, or really actually press any number on your keypad, I'll be notified that you have a question and can call on you, and certainly encourage anyone out there to ask a question, whether it's basic or very detailed. Now's the time to do it, and we hope to hear from everyone. So there's quite a few folks that have their hands up. So why don't we go ahead and start with June Ryan. June, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from Angel Fire, New Mexico. My question is, I have not found anywhere the proposed wording for this amendment. Do you have a proposed wording for it?
Yeah, so let me tell you exactly where you can go first to learn more about the wording of the amendment. There are several versions of the constitutional amendment we're talking about already introduced in Congress. And if you go to AmericanPromise.net, all one word, and you'll see under Our Goal a tab at the top. And if you click on Our Goal, it talks about the amendment, and you can also click on the 28th, and that will take you right down to the actual wording of a couple of the amendments that have been introduced in Congress. So basically it comes down to this. Section 1 it gives us the power to be equal citizens again and limit with reasonable limits on spending and the raising and spending of money by candidates and others to influence elections. And the key phrase is the political equality for all and to advance the integrity of democratic self-government. That enables us to get a handle on the super PAC money, to say corporations and unions and special interests shouldn't be dominating the elections, and we should have small donors, the people driving and constituents instead of donors being represented. That's what the amendment allows, and it allows us to distinguish between corporations and human beings in making those kind of laws. That those are two very different things, and we have to protect our rights of human beings and not have global corporate money dominating this system. So that's sort of a summary of what the amendment says. The actual language is where I said AmericanPromise.net and Our Goal tab. And we are working with Americans across the country to build consensus behind the specific language that ultimately will be voted on in Congress. And we have some time to do that. So stay tuned for what we call Writing the 28th Amendment, because we want to bring as many Americans who want to participate into this process to take a look at the language, to comment on it. This is the first amendment in history. We've done 27 of these. This is the first one in the social media and the internet age. There's no reason why many more Americans can't weigh in on what the amendment finally that's adopted will say, and we're going to help build that process so people can.
Great question, June. Thanks. Let's take another one. Let's go to William Sweet. William, where are you calling in from?
From Leicester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
I think my question has been answered already.
Okay. Great.
Thanks, William.
Okay. Thanks, William. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go to Jerry Ryberg. Jerry, where are you calling in from?
Galesburg, Illinois. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Galesburg, Illinois, and I was active in Wolfpack. Not so active now. They've won Vermont, California, my state of Illinois, New Jersey, and Rhode Island. I think that's it. I think they've got 5. They're looking for 34 states. And that's their plan by winning over state legislatures. And I just wonder, are you working with them in any way?
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. So as I said, we work with everyone who wants to win the 28th Amendment. And there's different strategies other groups are pursuing related strategies. They're all geared towards how do we win a 28th Amendment that can get ratified by the states and get what we need done in this country. So we're very happy to work with anyone who wants to do that. Wolfpack and many other groups were at our National Citizen Leadership Conference. We work with volunteers from Wolfpack, volunteers from other organizations in all the various states. And we try to encourage and help and facilitate collaboration so that in your town in Galesburg, Jerry, that you could, if you wanted to organize a core team or get involved in helping to push a local resolution, you might have people from Wolfpack or Move to Amend or Common Cause or League of Women Voters or all kinds of groups, and we sort of drop our group labels and come together to collaborate and win. So we're doing that right here in Massachusetts, in fact, with both a ballot initiative to put on the ballot that will create a citizen commission, a nonpartisan, cross-partisan citizen commission on the 28th Amendment, and a resolution in the Massachusetts legislature, which is backed by Wolfpack and others, including We the People Massachusetts. And so we think there are many different things we all can do And the best thing we can do is try to work together to help move the ball forward, since we all are working towards the same goal.
Great. Yeah, great question, Jerry. Appreciate that. Let's go to Anna Forbes. Anna, where are you calling in from?
Hi, I'm calling in from Kensington, Maryland, and I belong to a group called Get Money Out Maryland that's all about passing the resolution here. And we just went through a situation where the legislature very nearly did it, but didn't in fact come to a vote. I just wondered if you had any insight as to what happened in Maryland and why we got so close without actually getting there.
Well, Anna, thanks. I was down there with Get Money Out Maryland, and it was good to be there. I testified in support of that bill in the Maryland legislature, and very grateful and thrilled with the work you folks have done in Maryland. You know, a lot of these this is a fight we're in, and often we have to go back and go back and go back and get closer every time. And I think I would leave it to folks in Maryland who probably know more details about why it didn't pass in the end. And I think the important thing is for you folks to do is to contact your legislators and try to find out what happened. I don't know. I will say, as you all know, or many of you may know, there is a healthy debate about whether calling for an amendment convention for this 28th Amendment is a way to pressure Congress is something that to be worried about, whether a convention under Article 5 instead of Congress just doing the amendment by 2/3 may have consequences, because we haven't had a convention. There's unknowns that people argue and are concerned about. The bill in Maryland did include a call for a convention, as many resolutions have, not only for the 28th Amendment, but earlier amendments that succeeded in the end by coming through Congress because of the pressure of the convention press. But it may be that that debate needs to carry on a little bit longer and for another legislative session, before people get comfortable with it. So I wouldn't be downhearted. I think you reached a lot of people. I think the debate is really important. And if some people felt like they like the 28th Amendment but aren't sure about what the call for a amendment convention might do, well, that's an opportunity to have the conversation and figure that out. So thanks for your efforts. Again, I don't have any information about specifics on that issue, but that's a bit of speculation. So I'd be happy to know more. If you find out, let us know, because one of the things we try to do is be a productive, helpful hub of information, so that when others can learn from prior experience, we can help share that. So do please touch base with us and let us know what you find out.
Yeah, thanks. Great group, Get Money Out Maryland, doing wonderful things. So there's still a lot of other hands up in the air, and I'm going to call on folks in just a few minutes. There was quite a few people that submitted questions beforehand, and I'd like to be able to address a couple of those as well, if that's okay, Jeff. But Thomas Kuhn wanted a question answered. How is American Promise going to help win the majority of local, state, and federal legislative seats in order to approve the proposed 28th Amendment? I think what he's getting at is, how do we get Congress to do this? And state legislatures.
Yeah, and it's right. That's the key. And going back to the three key prongs: national consensus, we got that; political power and decentralized everywhere, being organized like we're trying to do here, is the key. And we have more to do there. I think if we keep pushing on these resolutions, we keep organizing in our communities, and if you are in a town where you can do a resolution and you haven't yet, please do. If you're in a state where you can do a resolution, either ballot initiative or otherwise, and Ben will help give you those details on any state, and it's on our website as well to find out more about how you can do that. Please do that, because our strategy requires not just American Promise, quote unquote, to do this, but we together to do this, because we get these resolutions going everywhere. That begins to turn the consensus into creating the kind of legislators at the local, state, and federal level that will vote for this. And that may be because those who are there decide they can see where this is going and see that it's either a good thing or they will lose if they don't support it, will decide they support it. Or those who decide I'm going to stand against the national consensus, the consensus in my community and the majority of my constituents, and stick with the big money and not support and fight for this amendment, they may well find themselves losing in 2018 or 2020. And I think that's how we anticipate it. We don't get involved in elections. We're not a PAC or anything like that. But we do get very involved in helping Americans organize and support the 28th Amendment, and that will have consequences. If we succeed in what we're all trying to do together and keep expanding this effort, there will be a political environment in which it will be politically wise to support this amendment and politically unwise to stand in its way and decide you're gonna stick with the big money interests.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and that was a great question. Thanks to Thomas for asking. Let's go to Vince Davis. Vince, where are you calling in from?
I'm Vince Davis, and I'm calling in from Independence, Missouri. Hello.
Hey, Vince.
Hi.
Hey. I'm calling.
What was your question?
My question is basically this. Bernie Sanders had mentioned during the 2016 campaign of Hillary Clinton that he thought we were going to get oligarchy first, and then we needed to repeal Citizens United, which I guess is what MoveOn's talking about with the 28th Amendment. I think it needs to go a step further. Is it possible, even through MoveOn, to get a petition online and in writing to be circulated to impeach, revoke, and replace as President and Vice President of the United States of America, Donald John Trump and Richard Michael Pence?
Well, Vince, thank you for your question. I was in Independence not long ago after coming out of Kansas City and stopped at the Harry Truman birthplace, or not birthplace, his home, where he and Bess lived. So it was lovely to be there. And I thank you for joining the call. As I said, our strategy depends on focus, and our focus is the 28th Amendment. We think that will do more to save this country than a particular politician who comes and goes. We're in this for the long haul for this country, and if we do our job, we'll set a good foundation for a successful democracy for decades and centuries to come if we take this on. There are those, of course, who have the kind of serious objections to the current administration that will decide to focus on ideas such as the one you suggested, but it won't be American Promise because of our real focus and holding together this national consensus, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, to win this historic 28th Amendment.
Yep, great. Let's go to Alice Angel. Hi, Alice. Where are you calling in from?
Closer.
Hey, Alice, having a hard time hearing you, Alice.
Vail, North Carolina.
Okay.
What's your question?
Hey, Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice's husband. We're partners. And I have a question. We're just very excited about this idea we just came up with. You know, the zeitgeist now that is people are really paying attention to, politicians are paying attention to, is these marches. They swell in numbers. We've been in some of them demonstrating, and they're amazing. And I would like us to propose a march to bring back American democracy on the 4th of July, 2017. Let's swell the ranks. Let's forget about the doggone barbecues and the fancy whatever, and let's get out there and have a march to save American democracy and to push this cause.
Completely nonpartisan.
Completely nonpartisan. Bring in everybody.
Yeah, I love it.
Thanks.
Great idea.
Yeah, lots. One of the many strategies that we can employ, certainly getting out into the streets. Let's go to Dana Aberman. I'm sorry, Dana.
Hi. It's okay either way. I'm calling from Boca Raton, Florida, and I've read all through all of your literature, and obviously my group is appalled. We are not really sure what you mean by getting a resolution. And my second part of my question is, we're ready to start working tomorrow. We are 100 women, grassroots, never done anything like this before. What exactly do you want us to start doing tomorrow?
Thank you. I'm glad you asked. So we have model resolutions, and starting tomorrow, especially in Florida, because what we're trying to do is it's not one size fits all. So we look for different opportunities. Now in Florida, you are a ballot state. I was in Florida just a week or two ago. We did a big event with Representative Deutsch, Ted Deutsch, who is a leader on the amendment work in Congress. Oh, good to glad to hear you, Dana. Then good to talk again. And so I think what we really need is organizing to see whether we can get, and it's a huge lift, 1 million signatures in Florida for the ballot initiative. Now, there's some steps between now and then, so we don't have the ballot initiative approved tomorrow. But what you could do tomorrow, starting tomorrow, is take your 100 and decide this is going to be our project, and connect up with Ray Clare and the Tampa area, American Promise Tampa Bay, connect up with the folks who came over in Fort Lauderdale, and we'll help you connect with Florida.
I've done this.
Go ahead, Dana.
I've done this, and I've done all of this and I've had conversations with the people that you've just mentioned, and that's been, it's taken a while. It started the day after, the day you were there in Wilton Manor, and like I said, we are focused, we are ready. I can't find people to actually give me anything direct. I mean, it's all great concepts and everything sounds rosy, but tell me what to do tomorrow with my 100 women. We're focused. We see this as a long term. We know we're a ballot state. I've heard about the 1 million signatures. I haven't gotten any literature on it. I mean, as I said, Jeff, we're ready. And I think I said this to you when I was in Wilton Manor.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan, jump in.
I was just going to say, if I could just jump in for a quick second, Dana, and I love your enthusiasm, and it's so wonderful to hear from you. So it's right that Florida is a ballot initiative state, and there is, an effort to get as many states to push for a ballot initiative as possible. In addition to that, we're really trying to stand up and take a model from many other groups across the country that are doing this, is local resolutions, right? These are local resolutions that are passed by your town or city council or even county government. I believe you're in Broward County, I believe.
I'm in Palm Beach. I'm in Palm Beach County.
Palm Beach County. And there are incredible opportunities to pass local resolutions calling for a 28th Amendment. We've actually developed a pretty good guide describing how you might go about doing this, and would love to set up a conversation with you offline as well to walk you through this process, which is a fantastic opportunity to get started on tomorrow if you want. It has real impact, as Jeff mentioned. Almost 800 cities and towns across America have passed these types of local resolutions, and they do have tremendous impact, and it will also help to educate and inform folks to get involved for the statewide ballot initiative. So it's kind of a two birds strategy. And so go ahead and send me an email, beng@americanpromise.net, or I have your email here, and we can connect offline, and would love to help you get that up and running.
Okay, that's perfect. That's all that I really needed from tonight, and I look forward to hearing from you at another evening. Jeff, thanks so much for everything you're doing. Ben, I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks,
Dana. Thank you. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about what everyone can do in their state starting tomorrow here in just a few minutes. I do want to take a little bit more time to go over some questions. There's a lot of folks with their hands up and want to make sure we cover as much as possible here. So if we can go to Leslie Brothers. Leslie, hi. Where are you calling in from?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello? Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
I'm calling
Hi,
you.
Leslie.
Great. I'm calling you. Hi there. Calling you from Santa Monica, California. And I'm new to your organization, but I'm not new to the concept of why this is so important. But I would like, and this may be a naive question, but I would like some clarity about whether there's a preferred direction in terms of the congressional vote versus the state legislators' conventions. What is the preferred angle on getting this thing done?
It's a great question, and there are groups that definitely have preferences. And I'll just say what I think is accurate. Wolfpack, for example, is a group that believes that we need to have the amendment convention, state legislatures passing resolutions that will call for a convention to propose this amendment to the states. And there are those who don't think that's a good strategy and we should be focused on Congress, such as Common Cause. At American Promise, we try to emphasize both of those are trying to win the 28th Amendment. Those who think that it's a good strategy to press state legislatures to call a convention in order to either have a convention propose this amendment for ratification to the states or pressure Congress should do that, we believe. Those who oppose that idea, we believe, should focus on getting it out of Congress and that we not fight each other about that. So there are those who prefer strongly one strategy or the other strategy. We welcome both of those views in American Promise and think that the best way to have that debate is among friends with accurate information that can continue to grow. In the end, I will offer my perspective as someone who learns a lot from our history and is inspired by our history of winning amendments. Usually it has required both of those things happening, that the dynamic, it's not a linear path to getting the amendment out to the states. It's a dynamic path of many different strategies of people who don't necessarily agree on the same strategy that creates the environment in which so far all 27 amendments have come from Congress winning or getting 2/3 of a vote and then having it ratified in the states. So we haven't had a convention since Philadelphia in 1789. But I think there have been clear examples where Congress proposed that amendment for ratification by 2/3 only because of the pressure of states beginning to look to a convention because Congress would not do it. And so whatever environment we are in right now, many believe Congress won't do it unless we create that pressure, or that Congress, with these resolutions we're doing at the state and local level, will begin to move towards 2/3. Either way, we think those who believe in a strategy that is working towards the 28th Amendment should push that strategy, share our successes together, share our learnings together, and we will get stronger and stronger. That's the American Promise approach.
Great question. All right, so we're going to do just maybe one or two quick questions. Again, we want to try to get to as many people as possible, and this is a great discussion. So one or two more, and then I'm just going to do a quick overview of what's already happening on the ground and what's coming and how everyone can jump in and participate starting as soon as possible. So let's go to Bruce Court Daniels. Bruce, where are you calling in from?
Well, I'm calling in from Running Springs. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
We sure can, Bruce.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your responses. My question gets to this. California passed a voluntary resolution, and what I'm asking is this. We have a state Supreme Court. We have a 10th Amendment. We have the state of California. We're the 6th largest nation in the world. Why isn't it a matter of interpretation? What's your take on this, and what are you doing legally to ensure that the interpretation of what you're proposing, the 28th Amendment, is actually carried out? We have a Supreme Court that makes its own interpretations. Citizens United is one case. How are you going to prevent other Supreme Courts from making that kind of interpretation, even with a new amendment?
Yeah, Bruce, it's a great question. And there are no guarantees in American life. People, a whole lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people died in the Civil War, and we won the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendments to settle that question about whether we're all created equal and whether we're going to all be equal citizens regardless of race. But we know well that was the beginning of the struggle. That wasn't just resolved with an amendment, and the Supreme Court decided cases like Plessy versus Ferguson and other cases that basically defied and both the spirit and the words of the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment right to vote. So it's never over. If you believe in democracy and government of the people, I'm sorry to say it never. We can never put our feet up and say, "Oh, we're all done." But I can tell you one thing: if we don't win this amendment, we are basically all done. So we win the 28th Amendment. I do think we will change both the culture of the courts and the judiciary. It will be an extraordinary rebuke to the Supreme Court and a corporate-dominated court to have Americans rise up together and cross partisan lines and win an amendment to say, you were wrong. This money is power. It's not just free speech. And it's power, and if you let unlimited money dominate our elections, that means you're taking the rights away of most Americans, and we're not going to stand for it. It would be a very big rebuke to the court, and I would be very surprised to see any court stand against that. It doesn't mean we should get complacent and rest and think it's all over. But, as I said, we've overturned the Supreme Court many times before. The court struck down the progressive income tax, overturned with an amendment. They accepted that. Game over. The Supreme Court said the poll tax was okay. You can have a poll tax and keep people from voting, even if they can't afford the tax. They're not allowed to vote. That was struck down. That was an amendment that won that, and the Supreme Court said, okay, we're going along. So I think we can win this, and the court will respect the 28th Amendment. And if we get times in future years where we get a court that isn't respecting the amendment, I think they'll hear from the American people. And as I said, it's never over, but we have to win this amendment to keep the possibility of the American experiment and self-government of equal people alive, and I think we will.
Yeah, great question. Okay, we're going to try to squeeze one more in here, if that's okay. We're going to go to Keith Gangatano. Hi, Keith.
Hi, how you doing? My Good. Question is kind of ironic, actually, because it's regarding money. What strategy is there for earning or getting enough money to get the message out beyond just, I understand the grassroots aspect, and it's very powerful, but we're going to be up against corporations who don't like this change. What strategy for, I don't know, TV commercials maybe are not the right approach, but how are we going to get our message out in a broader sense?
Yeah, thanks, Keith. We've thought a lot about that, and one of the things we decided early on when we launched American Promise, 16 months ago, was that we will not depend on the wealthy interests, even foundations. We welcome support. We will need money. We knew that, but we also knew, like the rest of the model, we the people have to do this, and we the people have to pay for it, or we won't have enough money to win this fight. But there are millions of us, and millions of us giving a little bit actually adds up to a very healthy, sustainable, winnable financial model, and that's what we're built on. So we're a member organization. Many of you are members, and we thank you for that. Our average membership contribution is $24, and we've been able to scale, and we think we can keep scaling with people just giving what they can, and giving what you can makes you a member, and you begin to participate, and we get stronger and stronger. We actually have a maximum membership contribution. We want to model the kind of democracy we want to see. You're a member if you give $1. You're a member if you give $1,200. That's $100 a month. But we actually say we don't want people to give, $10,000 and decide and that makes them a special member or something. We are modeling the financial model of equal citizenship. We know that with the small donor model, if people believe in what we're doing and believe in ourselves, if we believe in ourselves, we will have plenty of money. I think Bernie Sanders proved that. I think Barack Obama proved it in 2008 with a small donor model, and I think can prove it here. So it's a profoundly important question. There's no guarantee. The assumption of your question is accurate, that we will need significant money to overcome the powerful interests that don't want this to happen, but that if we, the people, pitch in a way that supports this cause, we can trust that other Americans are doing that too, and we'll have plenty of fuel to take this over the finish line.
Great. Yeah, that was a great question. And all great questions and a wonderful discussion. So thanks to everyone that's been participating. And thank you, Jeff, very much for fielding the questions and laying out a little bit of the strategy. And what I'd like to do now, as I mentioned, is talk just a little bit about what's happening on the ground all over the country. I won't have time, unfortunately, to go through all 50 states, but I'd like to certainly select a few exciting ones and then talk, as I mentioned, how everyone can get involved in this historic work starting as soon as tonight or tomorrow. So I think to start, there's many folks, I think, don't really recognize that the power is in your hands. There's an amazing story coming out of Wyoming with an American Promise member, a guy by the name of Ken Chestek, who is a University of Wyoming law professor that said, hey, I want to make Wyoming become the 19th state to call for an amendment to overturn Citizens United, and went to great lengths to get a resolution filed in the Wyoming state legislature, and actually, as a matter of fact, got 4 Republicans in committee to vote in favor of it, but unfortunately didn't make it much farther past there. And when Ken realized that wasn't happening through the Wyoming legislature, he kind of picked himself up and dusted himself off and said, all right, well, if the legislature's not going to do it, I'm going to move to try to put this on the ballot in 2018 to let Wyoming voters be the voice on this. And so there's already in the state of Wyoming a signature gathering process for the ballot initiative in 2018, which is incredibly exciting. Alan Simpson, a former Republican senator from Wyoming, an American Promise Advisory Council member, was, I believe, one of the first 100 signatures to sign on to this ballot initiative, which is really exciting. And I think that what Ken's story shows us is that you just got to go for it, right? And an American Promise can help you go for it. I think another good story to tell is oftentimes we might be somewhat hesitant or reluctant to call up our legislators and ask them to be a lead sponsor on one of these 28th Amendment resolutions. Folks might be surprised to hear that there are 22 at last count, there are 22 resolutions, 28th Amendment resolutions, moving through state legislatures all across the country. And what I would encourage people to do is to go onto American Promise's website, where we have that information, and see if you are in a state that has a resolution moving through the legislature, and join on these core team calls that I mentioned before to support that. And if not, pick up the phone and call your state legislator and ask them to be the lead sponsor. It was funny. Jeff and I were on the phone just a couple days ago with a young state legislator in Michigan who was absolutely thrilled to hear from us and basically jumped at the opportunity to do this, right? I think that people would be surprised at how receptive state legislators are to actually taking the lead on this and jumping out in front. So all over the state, all over the country, this is happening, whether it's ballot initiatives like I mentioned in Wyoming or Missouri or Florida, like we spoke about, Massachusetts, and potential for others. There's many states that it's not too late for a 2018 ballot initiative. So make sure that you reach out to us and let us know that that's something that you're interested in doing. And then for state legislative resolutions, there's a lot of support that we can give these. As Jeff mentioned, the Nevada State Senate just voted in favor to pass a 28th Amendment resolution to make Nevada the 19th state, calling for the 28th Amendment, which is fantastic. And it was done through grassroots lobbying and giving testimony during the hearing. And the work that we do day in and day out can have tremendous impact on the success of these resolutions. And then also local resolutions, like I spoke to just about recently with the woman in Florida, is passing local resolutions is a phenomenal way to do this. I think we can learn from example from the folks in Wisconsin and Wisconsin United to Amend that have done over 100 of these. This is having tremendous impact on educating people in the community about the issue and really helping to move the needle on some of the decision makers in Congress out there. So as I mentioned before, there's going to be a guide that's available on our website. There's a good website out there that's called unitedforthepeople.com that you can check out and see if your town has passed a local resolution. And if not, we encourage that's a great way to get started. But quick 3 steps. Next steps to get involved. Next step number 1, I'm going to be sending out an email tomorrow, a follow-up email that will have a link in the email so you can let us know that you're interested in starting an American Promise Association with staff support and coming out to launch that APA or forming a core team. And again, when you do fill out that information, we'll reach back out to you and give you a lot more details on what that process looks like. And then step 2, make sure that you fill out all of the information so we can get back to you. We can get back to you promptly. We'll hope to get back to you within a week or so if you fill this out. If you're feeling inspired, if this vision and strategy sounds right to you, make sure that you click the link and fill out information so we can reach back out to you and loop you into all of these wonderful efforts that are happening all across the state. And then number 3, if you're already working on democracy issues, let us know what's happening in your state or town. A lot of this information that we get is coming from local folks, just like you guys on this call, that have to inform us on all the exciting things that are happening. So what you're specifically doing and how we can help support that effort and how we might be able to connect that work in the citizen uprising is extremely important. So it's just about we just have 5 minutes left or so. And I would love to hear from folks if they have questions about how to start an American Promise Association or how to start a core team. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of the call that the next core team call is Saturday, May 13th. These are calls that happen on the second Saturday of every month at 1:00 p.m. and encourage you to gather a team together or a group of friends together to join the call and get into action coming out of that call. Now, the calls are inspiring. We'll have guest speakers, and there'll also be specific action coming out of the call. Right now we're currently engaged in our grassroots lobbying effort and learning how to do that, how to set up a meeting with our member of Congress or state legislator, how to have a good meeting, how to follow up with that meeting, etc. So they're extremely informative, they're fun, and have good action coming out of the calls, so do that. Again, I think we have just a few minutes left to take some questions, whether it's for me about getting an APA up and running or a core team, or whether it's for Jeff about some of the strategy. Let's go back to the questions, and then I'll kick it over to Jeff to close out. So go ahead and press 1 on your keypad if you do have a question, and we'll call on you. So let's start with Ann Talifiero, and I think that name sounds familiar. How you doing, Ann?
Yeah. Hi, good. Actually, I wanted to talk about the Constitutional Convention, so that question's already been answered.
Okay, great. And Ann, I believe you're in Oregon, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Oregon.
Okay, welcome, and looking forward to working with you. And Ann is one who is actually going to be starting a new American Promise Association, I believe, just south of Salem. Isn't that right, Ann?
Yeah, well, in the central Willamette Valley. Salem's kind of in the middle of the valley, and it's our state capital. So
great.
We're
looking forward to
the hinterlands.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to working with you on that. Great. So okay. Let's go to Anna. Let's go to Anna Forbes. Anna, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I stepped away from the phone. I just don't quite understand how you can pressure Congress without the resolution including an amendment convention. It would seem to me as though the statements, the resolutions in favor of this kind of thing would be good, but why does it put any pressure on Congress if you aren't saying, we're mobilizing toward an amendment convention, and if you don't act, that's what's going to happen?
Well, as I said, it's a good question, and there are those who think that the answer isn't satisfactory. But I'll share my perspective on why I think there's many different ways to pressure Congress. So, and number one, if you think Congress is pressured by an amendment convention, which is a valid thought, imagine what politicians fear even more than that, and that's losing. Politicians who run want to win. And so the question is, what makes it likely that the amendment will be an issue in the campaign when they're running, and that if they don't support it, they may lose, and therefore they'll either lose or support it? I think that's an open question about, does an amendment convention make that more or less likely? I'm not sure, but I know if 80% of people in the community or in the district where that campaign is happening have passed a resolution at the local level or have organized and worked to get a state resolution at the ballot level, whether it has an amendment convention call or not, I think we want to see people asking their candidates, where do you stand on it? 80% of us or 70% of us or whatever the number is that have passed it want you to support this 28th Amendment. Will you or will you not? And if that question is asked in enough races by enough of you folks and all of us across the country, then it won't be a Article 5 calculation that the politicians make and that they feel the pressure by. It'll be, will I win or lose this race? And so I think there are a lot of different ways to create the kind of pressure that we need to get to 2/3 of Congress, if that's the strategy people are going to do. And we should pull all the levers that are successful, and you try ones that we don't know are going to work or not, and repeat the ones that work, and the ones that don't work, we'll try something new. So I think it's a fair question, but let's try lots of different methods, and I think we'll find the combination is that we begin making significant progress. And there's already significant support in Congress, but we need much more. And it's a combination of the many things that go into a calculation of how will I vote for this. And right now we have too many who decide that calculation is, where do my donors stand on this? And we need to turn it into, where do my constituents stand on this? And I think these amendment resolutions at the local level that Ben was talking about can be very helpful on that.
Yeah, definitely. So we might run the risk of going just a little bit over time. I hope folks will bear with us. Let's take one more question, and then we're going to move to wrap up. So let's go to Michael Pan. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how you doing? Doing
good. Good, thanks. Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah, so I have a question. Yeah, so I'm in the process of forming the new 21st Century Movement Association, and I'm very curious, how do we translate big data into concrete solutions to defeat Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, in order to combat systemic ethnic, racial, and socio-economic inequality in the 21st century? Because we're seeing that in the second decade, 21st century, we're becoming more of a divided nation. So how do we go from here to come with bold solutions and pressure not only President Donald Trump, but going from the bottom to the top?
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And as I said, our focus is on winning this 28th Amendment, and so we're really going to continue to focus on that. But your point about the 21st century and the unifying of the country, regardless of ethnicity and race, and regardless of economic status, and regardless of all these things that are dividing us, we do need to overcome. We actually think winning this constitutional amendment, the amendment does really good stuff for the constitutional law, for getting money out of politics, but the process of winning this amendment, the process that you folks are engaged in right now, is actually part of, I think, the 21st century renewal of the American promise that we're going to actually govern ourselves together. So if we can, and we will, lift this, consensus that we already have that we need to do this, and force it and overcome the plutocracy that wants to break it and divide us, we will be looking at a very different country that looks much more unified. And I'll say a little bit more of this as we wrap, but that's what amendments tend to do. They take the country forward out of often a dark place and begin putting it on track to go to the right place. Big data, technology, all the tools that we have available that they didn't have when we were doing earlier amendments, I think will be an advantage in that. But the biggest thing is, do we, the people, have the will to do this together? And once we decide, yes, we do, then we begin to shift ourselves and we begin to shift our country towards a much better kind of politics.
Great. So we're going to wrap up in just a couple minutes. Jeff, I'm going to kick it back over to you in just a second. I wanted to do a quick review of what the next steps are. I'm going to be sending out an email tomorrow with a link to a participation form, so everyone on this call can let us know how they would like to participate, whether it's starting a new American Promise Association or forming a core team. Please let us know. We encourage everyone to do it, and we're going to have a lot of fun in the process doing that. Click the link, get back to me, we'll follow up with you, and then if you're already working on democracy issues in your community, or you're already working on a resolution or a ballot initiative, whatever it might be, let us know, and let us know how we can support that effort and tie it into the citizen uprising. I think one of the things that's so critical in this movement is being able to recognize all of the great work that everyone is doing on the ground and amplifying it and connecting it all across the country nationally, so other folks can learn from you, learn best practices and obstacles overcome and grassroots victories. It's really, I think, one of the things that's going to help us take us, over the top is being able to connect, folks in Santa Fe with folks in St. Paul, all working on similar issues and sharing best practices. And that's the power that we see happening coming from these American Promise Associations and core teams. And that's why I'm encouraging everyone to get a group together to join the core team call Saturday, May 13th at 1 o'clock p.m. And look forward to talking with everyone then. And thanks to everyone for jumping on the call tonight. Jeff, I'm going to kick it over to you to wrap up, and really appreciate it. Talk to everyone soon.
Thank you, Ben. Really great to have your leadership in American Promise and on this call, and thank you to all of you on this call for your leadership as citizen leaders. We're really excited about where we're going on this, and as I said, I often think of history, and our grandparents and great-grandparents were human beings just like us and had big obstacles and overcame the kind of challenges we face. I think we can do that too. Doris Kearns Goodwin on our National Advisory Council, big supporter of American Promise and our effort for the 28th Amendment. The great historian, if you think about her focus in her books, it's Lincoln, it's Teddy Roosevelt, it's Lyndon Baines Johnson, but it's mainly the American people in those eras. And if you think about those eras, the 60s, coming out of the Gilded Age, in the last of the turn of the century, or post-Civil War, right after the Civil War, these were tough times, and we won amendments in those times, 3-4 amendments at a time. We sometimes forget, as recently as between 1961 and 1971, we did 4 constitutional amendments in this country. And so Doris Kearns Goodwin knows when we're in an amendment era and knows we're in one now, and we can do this. And she's often fond of quoting Abraham Lincoln on the don't count out or assume because of a current political environment that it's always going to be that way. And he says, quoting Lincoln, Lincoln says, without public sentiment on your side, nothing is possible. With public sentiment on your side, anything is possible. Without public sentiment on your side, nothing. With public sentiment on your side, anything is possible. Well, we create the public sentiment, and it's on our side now, but we have to unleash it and give it fuller voice, and we have to mobilize it to win. And that's what you're doing. It's what Cindy Black and the amazing volunteers in Washington did to win that ballot initiative. It's what Michelle Sutter and Kathy De Silva and all the great citizen leaders in California did to win the ballot initiative, and what George Penn and the United to Amend brigades in Washington are showing us how to do with dozens and dozens and dozens of local resolutions. So we have it in ourselves to do this, and now all of us and many more are going to join and win this. So thank you for being on this call. Thank you for all you're doing, and looking forward to seeing you and talking again soon.